Hello, I'm Ben the Nerd, and welcome to my channel where I talk about all things nerdy and geeky. Today, I'll be going over what I think are the top 10 superhero movies. Please keep in mind that there will be spoilers, so you've been warned. So without further ado, let's get started. To start off with number 10, I picked Spider-Man Homecoming, which I consider to be one of the greatest Spider-Man movies ever for its portrayal of Spider-Man. Now, I grew up with the Sam Raimi trilogy, and I love Spider-Man 2, but Homecoming just gets so many things about Spider-Man right. The film focuses on Spider-Man trying to prove that he has what it takes to be a better superhero. Sorry, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, but your performances are second-rate compared to Tom Holland, who gives the best portrayal of Spider-Man today. Tom Holland makes both Peter Parker and Spider-Man feel younger, funnier, and more awkward. He manages to also maintain a heroic presence as Spider-Man. The chemistry between Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. is perfect, with its flaws and strengths both demonstrated. The main villain, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, is one of the best MCU villains ever because he isn't just a stereotypical villain taking over the world. He is this regular guy trying to support his wife and daughter. The other villains, Tinkerer and Shocker, aren't as interesting as the Vulture. In addition, the supporting cast is great, and despite being so young, Marissa Tomei does a great job portraying Aunt May. The scene where Spider-Man lifts the debris off of him is one of my favorite moments in a Spider-Man film, and a perfect nod to the comics. All in all, Spider-Man Homecoming is a great superhero movie and captures the essence of Spider-Man. For number 9, I picked the first Iron Man movie, which started the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. There are those times where someone is cast in a role and they end up so perfectly suited for that role. Well, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is one of those times. He gives one of the best superhero portrayals of all time. He gives humor and charisma to the character of Iron Man and owns the role. The other actors are great in their roles, although I don't find Jeff Bridges' portrayal of Obadiah Stane really memorable. He just seems like an old man who went crazy. The special effects in this film are excellent, and the Iron Man suit remains to be one of the most faithful-looking superhero movie costumes. This movie is darker than the other Marvel movies, which makes sense, considering it deals with terrorism. The action scenes are great, although I wish there could have been more. I just love this movie, and I think it's a great start to this big franchise. At number 8, I picked The Incredibles. I loved this movie as a child, and I still do. It's funny, action-packed, and emotional. The Incredibles focuses on the Parr family, who are a family of people with superpowers and must fight against the evil syndrome. The cast includes Samuel L. Jackson as Frozen, a friend of the family, who possesses ice powers and gives the funniest moment from this film.
Honey!
What?
Where's my super suit?
What?
Where is my super suit?
Also, the director, Brad Bird, voices the costume designer, Edna Mode, who is a memorable character.
No cakes.
Finally, the main villain, Syndrome, is a great villain who I can't blame for doing what he does. Incredibles has a special place in my heart, and I still love it. At number 7, I picked X-Men, Days of Future Past, which brought together the major actors of X-Men from X-Men First Class and the X-Men from the first film series. This film is one of the best X-Men films ever made. The cast is great, the special effects are awesome, and the story is an excellent adaptation of the comic. Both Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy give great performances as Charles Xavier, and Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender both give excellent performances as Magneto. Also, Hugh Jackman is great as Wolverine, though I don't need to tell you that. So this movie takes place in both the future and the past. Mutants have been wiped out by the Sentinels, robots designed to adapt to mutant powers. Wolverine is sent back in time to prevent the Sentinels from ever being made. One of my favorite moments in this movie is when Quicksilver runs in the kitchen at super speed. That scene was so hilarious. I love this film so much, and I consider it to be excellent. For number 6, I picked Guardians of the Galaxy, which takes place in space. and stars Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Bradley Cooper, and Dave Bautista, and Vin Diesel. The film focuses on a group of outlaws made up of Star-Lord, Gamora, Rocket, Drax, and Groot, who have to defend the galaxy against a villain named Ronan, who is after an Infinity Stone that grants immeasurable power. This is one of the funniest superhero movies I've ever seen. I love how they use old classic songs, which brings in an older audience. The visual effects in this film are something else in a good way, and the space battles in the final act is entertaining. All of the actors are great in their roles, especially Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Bradley Cooper as Rocket, Zoe Saldana as Gamora, Dave Bautista as Drax the Destroyer, Vin Diesel as Groot, and Michael Rooker as Yondu. However, Ronan the Accuser might be one of my least favorite supervillains in the film because he is really generic. There are also a few emotional scenes, such as when Peter, aka Star-Lord, watches his mom die, and Groot sacrificing himself to save his team. This movie is a classic great superhero movie, and I can't wait to see the Guardians team up with the Avengers in Infinity War. At number 5, I picked Superman the movie, which started the genre of superhero films. I know a lot of people say that this film is a little campy, and I do kind of agree with that. There are parts I don't like, but I still love this movie for one main reason: Christopher Reeve as Superman. Sorry, Henry Cavill, but Christopher Reeve will always be the definitive portrayal of Superman, in my opinion. He gives humor, confidence, and charisma as Superman. He also does a perfect job of capturing the mild-mannered nature of Clark Kent. He does a great job of switching between Clark Kent's mild-mannered persona and Superman's confident, heroic personality. Margot Kidder as Lois Lane also has a memorable performance, which has influences the actresses who have played Lois Lane after her. Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor was a fun performance, although different from the comics, and he seems to enjoy it. Superman the movie remains one of the greatest superhero movies ever, in my opinion. At number 4, I picked Marvel's Avengers, which was the first time we saw all of the superheroes from previous films in Marvel come together. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, and Hawkeye are recruited to fight against Loki, who wants to conquer Earth. This movie was funny and filled with plenty of action scenes. The Battle of New York is one of the best action scenes in a superhero movie today. One of the funniest moments in this film is when Hulk smashes Loki.
I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by that. Puny god.
The actors had great chemistry, and just watching them talking to each other was entertaining. Seriously, this might be one of the most entertaining and fun superhero movies I have ever watched. At number 3, I picked Captain America: Civil War, which has the largest assembly of superheroes in any movie today. This movie focuses on the government forcing superheroes to answer to them with a new policy called the Sokovia Accords. Iron Man agrees with the Accords, while Steve Rogers is against them. Both lead different teams against each other, and it's friend versus friend in an ultimate battle to see who wins on top. This movie balances drama with humor perfectly. Now, the airport battle scene is my favorite superhero action scene in any movie. It is so funny and entertaining to watch these characters fight each other and still make quips. Also, Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther and Tom Holland as Spider-Man are some of the best parts of this film. You can really feel the tension between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark as they argue. Also, I love the villain Zemo. Sure, he isn't anything like the comics, but he is an interesting villain, and we understand his motives. This movie is one of Marvel's best films in my opinion. At number 2, I picked Logan, which is Hugh Jackman's last time portraying Wolverine. I consider this to be the best X-Men/Wolverine film ever. This movie takes place in the future, and nearly all mutants have been wiped out. Logan and Charles live together and meet a little girl named Laura, who is Logan's biological daughter,
on the run from a group of government agents called the Weavers, who want to make her into a weapon. This movie was so great, it nearly made me cry. This is Hugh Jackman's best portrayal as Wolverine, who is a tortured soul that wants to die. And Patrick Stewart gives his best performance as Charles Xavier, who is aged and mentally ill. However, the standout role has to be Daphne Keane as Laura, aka X-23, Logan's daughter, who is both funny and scary. This movie was so emotional and brutal. I'm glad this movie got an R rating because it allowed Hugh Jackman to unleash himself in his role as Wolverine in all his bloody glory. Also, the movie doesn't try to mash too many things and feels like a simple story. The scene where Wolverine dies is one of the saddest scenes in a superhero movie that I have ever seen. Seriously, this movie deserves an Oscar. And for number 1, I picked, drumroll please, The Dark Knight, starring Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne / Batman, and Heath Ledger as the Joker. This movie is what brought in the dark and realistic superhero movies that followed. The story, the acting, the music, and the visual effects are all top-notch. There's nothing that I can say about this film that hasn't been said, but I do have to talk about Heath Ledger's Joker. This guy deserved his Oscar because he owned the role. He captured the essence of the Joker and added his own style to it as well. He gives one of the best villain performances ever. That's all I'm going to say about it. The Dark Knight is a masterpiece and remains to be the greatest superhero movie ever. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day. Please like and subscribe, and have a good day. Bye.